Hello, my name is Doreen Ellen Bell-Dotang, and starting with my last video, the time has really come to shake the foundations of the earth such as you know it, and that to the purpose of returning it to being the land of Israel. We have been living in Babylon. That is the land that the rabbis created. It's not just the earth. Babylonian astrology is not astrology such as you think of it. It was actually changing the courses and configurations of the stars such that it changed the courses of history and the events that occurred under the stars, meaning the Gentiles and those who are under the stars, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the inanimate kingdom. Gradually, as I've been speaking about, we have been upticking reality to return it to the original vision of God, and as a result you're seeing major changes not only on Earth but also in the solar system and beyond. We don't deal in astrology, we deal in the creation of stars and the histories that they describe. And that's why you're seeing the events that you're seeing. Earth is going to undergo a radical change. Again, we're doing it gradually. We are returning Earth to being morally sensitive, optimally morally sensitive, as was God's original intention and original vision. The reason why the rabbis created Babylon was because they wanted an earth and also a solar system, a universe that was not morally sensitive, that would tolerate evil and provide a platform for it. By returning the Tevel, which is the entire universe, the entire creation, to the original intention, we will again be bringing about the situation in which Earth vomits out that which is morally repugnant to her. I'm going to be speaking about what it is to be a Goy in this video. I'm going to try to say the difficult things that I need to say herein as gently as I can, but categorically and without mincing words. In order to understand what it is to be a Goy, one will need to remember that the creation, as I said in the last video, is a moral fractal, and the very same idea exists on a number of different levels depending upon where one is morally. And this is very much the case with Chava, Eve, whose name is 19 and is equal to Goy. And I will be explaining, please God, herein what you need to know. There are two misconceptions that must be overcome in order for us to understand things correctly. The first misconception is that God is all good. If one posits incorrectly that God is all good, one has no recourse but to become a dualist because we see that evil in fact exists. So if evil exists and one posits that God is all good, one has no recourse but to become an idol worshiper and posit a duality. In fact, the prophet Yeshayahu, you pronounce that incorrectly as Isaiah, in his book in chapter 45, verse 7, tells us the truth of the matter. He says, I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I am God, I am Hashem, who does all these things. Yeshayahu is the prophet about whom, after whom, let's say, Jesus was modeled. He never reached Yeshayahu's stature, but he was modeled after that. In fact, the value of Yeshayahu's name is 401, which is the word at, or et, or eight, and it is Aleph and Tav. That's where Jesus got this thing of he claimed to be the Alpha and the Omega. In fact, it is Yeshayahu who is the Aleph and the Tav. When Yeshayahu said what I just read to you, he did not say it for God, he said it as God. And so let's make no mistakes about it. God is not all good. God is not all sweetness and light. And as you're going to discover in this video, neither am I. Let's tell it all like it is. Another one of the misconceptions that people have, including many Jews, is that God creates man from God's being as the uncreated. That is, people think that God retains the position of Ein Sof and creates man from Ein Sof directly into the creation. Doing so would obliterate the creation. Also, it would be terribly unfair of God to remain on the level of Ein Sof, the totally uncreated, God in and of itself, and make us suffer being human. How would God know what we feel? How would God know what it's like to be vulnerable? To have problem children, to have debts, to be wounded, to be sick, to be poor. How would God know this if God was remaining aloof and from the position of Ein Sof creating humanity? That's not what God does. God comes down into human form in order to create humanity. The human form that God comes down into in order to create humanity, in order to create the entire creation, is the Jews. We are what you think Jesus is. The Jews are God in a meat suit. It is not one person, it is not one figure, it is all of us in our many numbers, in every generation. This is the truth of the matter. And as I said, we are not all good. Some of us are very, very good. Some of us are very, very evil. We are all contained and contain one another. We are mutually containing and containing. That is, every Jew contains all of the other Jews. From that place we create man. The story of the creation of Adam is the story of God becoming human. Adam is that first stage when God becomes a human being. Things are really hard to talk about and stay integrated in one piece. God did not want to be alone. And so Chava was created from Adam. I want to go back and say we learn from Torah that God created man in God's image. How could God create man in God's image if at Ein Sof, at that level, God has no image? Clearly, God is creating man in God's image as man. And that is where Chava comes in. The word that is translated incorrectly as rib, tzelah, is equal in value to all of the congregation. Chava is created from all of the congregation, not from a rib. The value of the name Chava is very, very difficult to speak on. This has never been heard on earth before. And it's kind of a miracle that the earth can stand, that it's become strong enough and pure enough to be able to withstand the impact. It's important what I'm saying, because the reason why most Jews do not know that they are God incarnate is precisely because up until now the world could not have withstood that realization. God's knowing and God's being are one and the same. And up until now, if a Jew came into the world with full God knowledge, the world couldn't have sustained it. So most Jews come into the world and immediately upon being born into the world forget who they are, and they think that they're just human beings. The fact that we're starting to come out of our amnesia means that the world can handle that and not be obliterated, which means that we succeeded. Chava, whose name is 19, is equal to the word goy. Again, remembering that the creation is a moral fractal, we can understand the word goy on many, many different levels. First of all, it is also the word gevi, which means my body. Before a Jew comes into this world, in the womb, a Jew is taught the entire Torah. Within the womb, God learns the entire Torah, takes on the entire Torah. It becomes a shield that protects the creation from God coming in, and it is also the information that is going to build the body. And to learn Torah is called hogeh. To learn deeply is hogeh. And that is the first manifestation of Eve. That is God learning the Torah and creating its body, gevi, from it. And then we're born into the world. I should also say that another substitute value of the word hoge, which is to learn, to meditate, is also gohe, which means to heal, to make healthy. Ideally, a body is meant to be healthy. We know that on another level, the word goy is a people. The Jewish people are also called goy, the people of Israel. So are the Gentiles. The word goy is not really any one Gentile. It is the peoples. It is the multiplication of a certain idea that arises in God's mind that God wants to make into an entire people. One of the substitute values of Chava's name, which is 19, which is the same thing as 1018, is hitrabut, which means multiplication, to become manifold. And that is what you are. You are our learning that becomes an actual body. I should like to say too that Chava's name is Ahuva, which is the feminine of that which is loved. The very fact that you have a body means that we love you very much. God doesn't love just as an emotion. I love you, man. When we love, that love becomes actual, physical, real. Your corporeal existence is our love for you. God, how can I say this? When a Jew learns Torah in Hebrew, Hebrew is Ivrit, which is Anochi, I am mother. It is also Sod Brit, the secret of the covenant. It is also Ubar Kadosh, the holy inception. We set the stars in motion. Our thoughts are the stars. The value for star is 48, which is moach. A thought is machsheva, which is equal to 355, which is the word shana, which is also the root meaning to repeat. Sometimes it's also in the form of shanen. It's the same basic root. And it's also the word year. As we think, so the stars are brought into existence. And what you call the constellations, what you see as the galaxies, are all the complexes of our thoughts when we're learning Torah. And the courses of those stars is what it is that sets the events in motion that bring about the meeting of the people who then fall in love and get married and have children, or maybe they fall in love and they have children and they get married, whatever the order might be. It is our thoughts that brought them together. We create the couples. When the rabbis created Babylon, which is a degraded form of the creation, of the tevel, of the universe. That's the word I'm looking for. Their thoughts were degraded, their emotions were degraded, their intentions were degraded. But their ability to bring you all into existence still was not nullified. Because when all is said and done, a Jew remains God in a body. And so, without loving you at the highest level and wanting the very best for you and intending the very best for you, they brought you into existence, but not at the highest level. And this is what we're trying to change now. We want to create you such that you can fulfill your deepest vision of what you want to be and what you want your world to be like, to have the abilities to be able to do that and the conditions under which to do that. The rabbis who learned the Talmud abrogated their position as Mashiach. We are Mashiach. They did not want to be HaMashiach. They didn't want to shoulder that kind of responsibility. So they went into denial, and they said, oh, the Mashiach will be someone else, sometime else, somewhere else. Those of you who have mistaken Christian ideas about what the Messiah is, what Mashiach is, are the brain and heart children of the rabbis. It's just so hard to talk about. It's just like, I feel like my soul is coming out. The brainchild of the rabbis who denied their own being the Mashiach. And because you were created by them, your ideas are concomitantly confused. How can you possibly know what Mashiach is if the Jew who brought you into existence didn't want to know who Mashiach is? In other words, refused to see Mashiach when he looked in the mirror. There are Christians on very, very, very different levels depending upon who it was who initially brought you into existence. Some of you hate the Jews down to your bone. There are Jews who hate the Jews down to the bone, and the Christians that they brought into existence have those same impulses. There are those among you who are Christians, but you have done everything in your ability to try to interpret it as lovingly as possible and have looked for the good in it. And then there are those of you who were born Christian who left. We know who's who. And everybody is going to merit in accordance with their interpretations. As you interpreted Christianity, so will the reality that you're going to live be. And why is that fair? Even though you were created by rabbis who didn't know what they were doing, how can we hold you responsible for your cruel interpretations? And the cruelty, by the way, that you perpetrated against us while we were in human form and vulnerable for your sake. The truth of the matter is that it is we who died for you, not the other way around. That's right. Get it straight. Within every Hebrew thought is something positive, because all Hebrew words have infinite substitution values. Even if someone thinks a negative thought while they're learning Torah, within that there is something positive, necessarily so. You were created with free will. You have always had the free will to find the most positive interpretation that you possibly could. If you have not searched out the good, if you are meditating on Satan all the time and on blood all the time and horrors all the time, that is your choice. And you will be held morally responsible for that. As Babylon is erased, which is what is happening now, Babylon is being erased, and Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, is coming up on top of it and being revealed, as is God's highest vision. All of you who have chosen to remain in the dirt of Babylon in your interpretations of your sick ideas are going to go down with that. Necessarily so. There's nothing that I need to do to judge you. You'll do it yourself. Because from now on, because the earth is so sensitive, every thought that you have is going to be picked up. Every impulse that you have is going to be picked up. It is going to be picked up, and it is going to be registered, and it is going to be mirrored in all of the water on the entire planet. Is going to be registered by all the earth on the entire planet. When you put your hateful foot down on the earth will throw you off. When the water sees your face reflected in it, it will push you away. It is not me who is judging you. It is you who is making your own pronouncements. Every hateful thing that you say will be mirrored back to you, will be I don't like to use the word vibrations, but you experience it as vibrations, so let's say vibrations. The vibrations you put out will come back to you amplified, for the good and for the bad. This is the truth of the matter. There is always time to turn away from evil. Always. There's no such thing as an end of the world and that's it, and you will keep going until you finally surrender and say, obviously this is not working. It'll be another brush fire, and it'll be another flood, and it'll be another tidal wave, and it'll be another volcano. Eventually, you will surrender to God. Not to one of your idols, but you will surrender to God. You will say, this just doesn't work. I'm going to walk a better path. But until you do, there will be no blessings coming from earth. This is no longer Babylon. This is now Eretz Yisrael, and we are the landlords and landladies. Peace out.